Hi, it's Larry Dillon, the CEO of the Wendover Corporation, and this is Scalable Insights, where we talk about how to scale your business. Jeff, the producer, how are you today?
Fantastic. How are you?
I don't know when this is going to air, but it's a chilly day. It's
Very chilly.
very chilly. Well, I'm excited about today, Jeff.
Me too.
I met with the inside sales team. We had a great session, and it made me think of some stuff I don't think that we've really covered that well. And that is the inside-outside sales model, which is if you're in B2B, one of the most significant things that you can do is either develop your own inside-outside sales team or outsource it. I've been doing this for 34 years, worked with companies in the U.S., Canada, England, Scotland, Ireland, sometimes Australia and New Zealand, and all different industries, software, hardware, IT services, security, commercial real estate, commercial moving, office furniture, office design, plantscapers. We even have companies, one comes to mind in Chicago. They rent expensive paintings for your office. So, Jeff, if you want to be inspired by having a Monet, an original Monet in your office to inspire you when you're editing the video,
Right.
we can call this company up, and all we have to do is give them some money, and they'll rent us a Monet or a Picasso. Crazy.
That's pretty cool.
But anyway, in that time, what I do is I talk to business owners, sales managers, VPs of sales, chief revenue officers, salespeople. All I talk about is how to grow your business, how to generate more sales, how to generate more profitable sales, because I think you should really have that in your psyche as well. Because if you start to think it and talk about, like, not only do I want to sell more, but I want to sell more profitable deals, it's the first step to making that happen. And consistently what I have found is the most successful companies, and these include some of the biggest companies, like Cisco. When they were starting out, they had 5,000, I believe it was 5,000 inside sales reps down in Research Triangle, down in Raleigh. And they were just calling businesses and seeing, and just connecting with those companies. The advantage of inside sales is when you speak to someone, and especially now, because it used to be 22% of the time, 20% of the time you could get someone on the phone. Now it's down to about 8% of the time. But when you talk to someone, you get some texture, you get some understanding. And for example, they're either going to say, not interested. Okay, still going to follow up with you. I want to follow up with you in 3 months or 6 months, whatever it is. Or, you know what? We're thinking about it. Can you follow up with me like in 6 months? Some people will say follow up with me in a year. And I got a funny story about that. So it was a buddy of mine in England that had a very successful insurance company. And this financial planner had reached out to him, cold called him. And on a lark, he said, call me back in a year. And to the day, Jeff, this guy, his name is Boise, called my buddy David back exactly 1 year later. And as a business owner, Dave's a very successful business guy. He was just like so impressed that he's like, all right, come on in. And then wound up getting all of his business. I think it was for 30 years or something, 20 years. But it's crazy. because most sales reps don't follow up. Most sales reps just make one phone call and then disappear. So the inside-outside sales model is undeniably the most powerful tool that you can utilize in B2B. The problem is it takes a bunch of money to get started. I was just talking to a fellow who used to work for me who went to work for a $7 billion company, and they had, over the last 7 years, had declining top-line revenue and weren't able to turn that around. So they hired this fella that we coached on the inside-outside sales model, and then he obviously moved on and worked for a number of large companies and was very successful. And he said, man, it's all the same stuff that I learned at Wendover. He said, so he came in. They didn't have an inside sales team. It was a $7 billion company, B2B, no inside sales team. So he went to the chairman and he's like, I need $4.5 million to put together a decent inside sales team. And he hired the best inside sales manager he could find, made some other changes, and it took a while. I think every quarter he started to turn it around. Every quarter there was a slight increase and then a larger and larger increase. And then I think this was the second or third year, increased top line revenue by $750 million. Now, it takes time, but there's nothing in B2B. We talk to thousands of B2B companies every year, thousands. And no one has said, you know what, we publish and pray content, we put content on our website, and man, we've doubled, tripled our sales because of that. No, it's none of that. None of that. There's nothing. There's, we make these calls every single day, and nobody's like, yeah, no, I'm not interested. I spent this amount of money, and like in the first month we got a return, in the second month we got a return. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, it takes a long time to build up. Like in this case with this $7 billion company, in the third year, a $750 million increase, which was significant because they were, the top line revenue was declining. And I asked him, I said, could you have done it without the inside sales team as part of your plan? He said, absolutely not. There's no way. It's just impossible. So, and if you talk to folks like Gary Pica from True Methods, he talks about the inside-outside sales model as being Robin Robbins, the same thing. The challenge that I'm sure most of you face is that you've probably tried to hire an inside salesperson and it's failed. And the reason that it failed is because 99.9% of even decent, not great, decent or good inside sales reps cannot self-manage. We were talking about this in the sales meeting this morning, and one of my reps has said, yeah, I used to work at a telemarketing company, which is basically all inside sales. He said the minute the managers would walk out of the office to go outside for a smoke, the way he described it, he said it was total chaos. Total chaos. But inside sales reps, and that's the challenge I think that a lot of you face, is that you don't have a $4.5 million budget to get the best inside sales manager. And here's the problem. 99% of inside sales reps need to be managed all day long. All day long. Let me repeat. 99% of inside sales reps, even good ones, need to be managed all day long. They got to hit their 100 dials, 125 dials a day. If they're not managed every single day, that number is going to decline. And if they realize that you're not monitoring them on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, they just sort of slide off the edge. And the next thing you know, it's 2, 3, 4 months later, and you realize that this inside salesperson isn't doing anything, and you just blew 20, 30, 40 grand, and now you're back to square one again. And listen, it's not your fault. First off, to manage inside salespeople is a very specific skill set. That in itself is a very difficult task. And the best way to manage them is, obviously if you have a full-time inside sales manager. But the problem is, you're going to hire one inside sales rep and then one inside sales manager to manage that. And if you have an outside sales manager and they're trying to close deals, it's a different cadence. It's a different thing. But more often than not, I've seen it fail. There are some inside sales reps that can self-manage. I've only met 10 out of the thousands of companies that I've dealt with. There's only 10 that I know. And they'll tell you they're strange, Jeff. They'll tell you they're weird. But you ain't getting them because they're locked in, they're making over $100,000 a year. And their companies are not going to let them go. Like I have buddies, good friends, who have a great inside salesperson. It's been with them for years, just crushes it. And I'll talk to him. And we were demoing Insight PRM, the new version. And I said, hey, do you want to, actually this guy was like, well, my guy uses an Excel spreadsheet. This is the best. This is literally one of the best in terms of results, in terms of converting our leads into appointments. This guy is like 25, 30%, which is like a crazy number. And he said he uses an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm like, why is he doing that? He's like, well, I've offered like whatever he wants to use. This company, that company. I won't name their names. He says he hates them all. He says it's a waste of time. He said, but A, you can talk to him, but B, you cannot mention his name to anyone else because I don't want people poaching him. And so he gets on the phone, and literally this guy is the best. Like, because it's really simple. My business is really simple. He converts 30%. You convert 25%. Most of our customers are in that 10 to 15% range. If you convert like less than 5%, you suck. And there's nobody close. I mean, it sort of peaks out at probably that 20% range. And this guy's at 30. So he's literally the best in the world at working our leads. And so he jumps on the phone and he's like out of the chute. He's like, I don't use CRMs. They slow me down. I refuse. I'm the best. And I'm like, actually, you are. In my mind, I'm like, you are. And he's out of the chute like, I'm the best. I'm better than everyone. I've tried all the different CRMs. They all slow me down. I use an Excel spreadsheet, right? Which, by the way, the most proficient inside salespeople that I've met, most of them are using an Excel spreadsheet. Same thing. CRM slows them down. Most of the best inside sales reps are using an Excel spreadsheet, even if their company tries to force them to use a CRM, because they're like, hey, I'll just leave. I'll go somewhere else. I can get a job anywhere I want because I'm one of the best. The ones that are really not so good love CRMs because they hate making phone calls. Really, they are time wasters. They would much rather waste time filling out like stuff and going from like a million screens between phone calls than actually bang out a lot of phone calls. But the most successful ones, you know what they want to do? They want to be on the phone. They don't want to be filling out like stuff on a CRM. So anyway, was kind of frightening. But anyway, but the one thing I wanted to mention was my guy was like, you cannot tell anyone this person's name, because he knew he had a gem. Like he knows he can't replace him.
Right.
You can live 100 lifetimes and never find another one like that. It's crazy. But anyway, he saw our software and loved it, uses it, and then his productivity actually jumped a few points. He's above 30s now. But, and by the way, we designed, what we did is we didn't listen to programmers and managers. We listened to these people, and that's how we designed insightprm.com. I don't like to pitch our stuff. But anyway, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But the point is, they're so weird. And they'll tell you they're weird. They would be terrible outside sales reps. They don't want to do outside sales. They don't want to be face-to-face. So if you want to jump into the inside-outside sales model, which clearly from the most successful companies that I've worked with, some of the most successful companies that I know, most of their competitors don't have an inside sales team. At best, they have one. I'm thinking of one industry where this company has 30 inside sales reps, and they are the number one in their industry, the largest and most profitable by a big factor. And again, nobody's paying the salary of 30 people because they're like, I don't know if it works. They know it works. It's a big differentiator. And listen, we had Pete Burke, who was the number one sales rep at this very large healthcare system, hospital system, like 60,000 employees, number one sales rep. He's like, you got to be willing to do the hard work that your competitors aren't willing to do. So you should consider your negative experience in terms of trying to set up the inside-outside sales model as a barrier to entry. You want to find as many barriers to entry, something where you just get out your checkbook and pay like an SEO company to get you on first page of search engine results, which, by the way, good luck. Have you looked at the first page of search engine results? If you Google like whatever it is, there are 4 ads at the top, 4 ads at the bottom. And then above the ads now, it's like, here's 3 companies with a green check mark. And, to see more like this, click this button even before you get to the first ad. And then drops down. There's like 10, 15, 20 of your competitors. Like, for the love of God, and, a lot of the marketing consultants are like, well, you have to make sure that you have a lot of content on your website because 80% of the decision is made before they reach out to a salesperson. That's weak. Good. If I was in your business, I'd be like, please, I would send that information over to your competitors and like, please, for the love of God, publish and pray. Somebody called it publishing and praying that somebody sees your content. You're getting a small fraction. Like, do the math for the love of God. I mean, there are 8 paid ads. I don't care if you're on the first page of search engine result. They're going to check out some of the companies with ads, but they're going to check out other companies. And then you're not even going to know because Google's not going to tell you who it is. We can do a reverse IP lookup, but that's only still a small fraction. But if you get a list of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 companies that you want to do business with, these are the best prospects, the most profitable prospects, and you call them every time you make a phone call, leave a voicemail, which let's assume you're going to leave a voicemail, and send an email, the first one is worth 0. So that's the first quarter. The second quarter, you've now done 2 voicemails, 2 emails. Now you've separated yourself from like 80% of your competition because most sales reps will give up after 1 cold call. And all you're doing on these cold calls is just saying, hey, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Larry from Larry's IT Services or whatever it is that you sell. Don't know if you're in the market right now. Just sent you an email with a list of all the services we provide. We service companies in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We service small and medium businesses. Hope you find that useful. I'll follow up next quarter. Tell them you're going to follow up next quarter and then follow up next quarter. It's the simplest thing. Are you going to get a ton of business in the first 3 months? No. Sorry. You should be thinking, for the love of God, great. Because that's your weak competition is going to try this for 3 months and they're like, we didn't get a return, and give up. So And then the second quarter, you've now got 2 touch points, and now you're starting to gain mind share. By the third, you've separated yourself from 90% of your competition in the third quarter. And by the fourth quarter, you will have number one, name recognition, mind share. Also, when it comes time for them to buy the product or service that you sell, you'll be the first person that they think of. There's a great book by Gail Goodman, who took Constant Contact from 50,000 customers to 500,000 customers. And she wrote a book while she was doing this called Engagement Marketing. And she said, just keep in touch with these people. Now, she was recommending email campaigns, which is great. But if you combine email and a voicemail, like let's just assume you're always going to leave a voicemail, you will be the first person that they think of. But anyway, it's a great book. But what you can do is sort of torque that up to like a whole new level by making calls and sending the email. So it just really magnifies that result. And then by the end of the year, for that group, if you decide to do it to 1,000 companies or 1,200 companies or 2,000 companies or 3,000, and then you could just do the math. You know, so for example, if you're in IT services, only 3% of companies are going to switch this year. So that means if you've kept in touch with 2,000 companies, that means 60 companies that you've been contacting, they're ready to go. So you're going to get a percentage of that business.
I have to say, I saw this, I guess, not the typical influencer like you would think, Instagram influencer or something like that. It was this one guy, he was just some businessman, and I saw it just came across my feed, and essentially he had like a little conference, like a small conference, and he was talking about how people, you know, just like this type of thing where sales, like it takes at least 10 attempts to get somebody on the phone, or like in any profession, you're not just going to get to the top level. You have to work your way toward that in different milestones.
Right.
And he was like, every time I get a rejection in any sense of the way, it gets me excited because I'm one step closer to getting there. And it's that's just what it is. It's like, it would make me hungry to get, you know, to get to that top spot. It's like you turn that rejection into something positive. Is like, you know, you could either take it as, oh, I'm rejected and now I'm unmotivated and not going to keep going, or you could take it as, well, 9 more to go and then I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
So it's just about positive mentality.
Well, yeah. And I was talking to the team this morning, and, you know, I said, you're talking to 8 people a day. And I said, and you know, we went around the room. We're like, how many people did you talk to that are interested? And the cool thing about talking to people, and we find this because we make thousands of calls a day, people will tell you, we're gonna make, I don't know, 2 million calls a year. What is it? Say 200,000 a month, 10,000 a day. We'll make 10,000 calls today, and we'll get hundreds of people that'll be like, "Yeah, we are." And these are people from the Philippines, and they'll be like, "Oh, I can't believe your timing. We just got this. This is going to happen today. For making 10,000 calls, they're like, I can't believe your timing. We are moving our office, or we are expanding. I can't believe your timing. We just got out of a meeting. We just discussed we need to buy a building, or we're going to expand into more space in this building." But also, I was talking to the team, and they're like, "Yeah, we and the consensus was they get 1 or 2 people that are like, yeah, your timing is good. We're starting to talk about it. You know, call me back next month, or call me back next quarter, or call me a year from now." And you don't wait a year to call them back, by the way. You just keep in touch with them, which you should be pushing content to those people once they tell you they have an interest. Instead of every quarter, maybe you contact them every 6 weeks or every month. But push content to them, right? You should have 4 to 6 pieces of content that you can push out to a prospect. So you call them back and like, hey, here's another article on lead gen, or here's another article on security for IT services, or whatever it is that you sell. You should have content that you can push, right? You don't want to publish and pray. You want to publish and push. Push that content to precisely the person that you want to speak to. I was talking to the chief revenue. I was out in California, spoke to my cousin. He's the chief revenue officer for it's a multi-billion-dollar private equity firm. And in his group, he's responsible for 8 companies that they've acquired. And they acquire these companies, crank up their revenue, and then they sell them. And he said, I said, what are you doing for SEO? He goes, Larry, here's one of our things. He's Google this service, whatever it was. He says, look at that first page. He's like, really? That's a competitive advantage? There's like dozens and dozens of competitors on that first page. He says, and the other problem is, he said, when you get lead, and we know this because I bought the number one website in the, we have a website called helpmovingoffice.com, which is a free website for companies that are moving, and it gives you free information on furniture, on design, on telephones, on security, whatever it is. And I've been trying to acquire it because it was the number one website in that space. And the problem is 80%, 90% of what you pay, they're clicks, but they're not filling out the form. And even though we have the reverse IP lookup, we have no idea. And then the other thing is that a bunch of the leads that you get are for companies with like 5 employees or 2 employees. They're just not the right size. So he said, listen, with Google and SEO, you get what you get. People call up, waste your salespeople time. You're going down the road and you find out that the company is way too small, which, by the way, 78% of all businesses in U.S., Canada, England, Scotland, Ireland have less than 10 employees. So right off the bat, I know for most of you, not even a prospect. And of the 22% that are left over, half of those are gas stations, beauty parlors. So right off the bat, if you're interested in right-sizing your target market, give me a call. I like doing that stuff. But anyway, and he said, you get what you get, which means you have no control over who goes to the website, to your website. He said, but with outbound, right, the inside-outside sales model, and all of these companies, what they do, if they didn't have an inside sales team, they install an inside sales team, every single one, and they do this. They buy the company, crank the revenues, and then they sell it. He said, with outbound, you get what you want because the only companies on the list that you're reaching out to are the right size, the right industry, the right geography. Everything is right. So that's the advantage, is that every single phone call is only to companies that you want to do business with. And we see it now after we've been doing this for our inside sales team for a year. And we're really starting to see it rev up. It takes about a year for any inside, which, by the way, the other piece of advice that I can give you is you have to wait a year for it to get up to full steam, because it takes 4 touches to really establish yourself in terms of mind share. And, if you're going to give up after 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, don't even bother. But anyway, which again is another barrier to entry because most people just can't think like that. But it is clearly the most powerful marketing tool that B2B players, companies utilize. And again, in the meeting, they were talking about we have these conversations, but you have nuance, and people will tell you their level of interest. It's pretty easy to gauge. Yes, you get people that hang up. Yes, you get people that, don't share with you, but you'll get people that'll say, it's interesting that you called. Not right now, but I'm definitely interested. Please follow up with me. You will literally get that. And you will, and if you make a lot of calls, you're going to get people that'll say, I can't believe your timing. We're interested. So, and the more dials you make and the more consistent the dials, the more this happens. And I'm always sort of surprised. Sometimes I'll take a prospect, like if I know someone or if it's a particular company, every now and then I'll take a prospect and I'll follow up. And even myself, I'm like, oh, for the love of God, is this a real lead? I want to give up on this, on someone that, that reached out to us. And then when I finally get in touch with them after 10 or 15 attempts, there was this one deal. I literally made 20 phone calls in like 3 or 4 months because they had reached out to us. And I was like, oh, I'm going to follow up on this one because I don't know. I forget exactly why. Woman called me. I just followed up with Jim Smith. Woman calls me in December. She goes, oh, hi, Larry. Listen, this is Betty. I work with Jim. He just wanted to say he's sorry he didn't call you back. He's sorry he didn't call me. He doesn't have to be sorry he didn't call me back. He's the buyer. She said he's sorry he couldn't call you back. He said, listen, we have marketing funds that we have to use or lose. And he wants to use your program. And I'm like, okay. She goes, no, you don't understand. We have to transfer the funds to you before the end of the year. So it wound up being a pretty darn big deal. But, the question is, Jeff, if I had made 19 attempts, would I have gotten the deal? Certainly if I'd made one, I would never have gotten it. I would have never got it. They probably reached out to 3 or 4 companies. And I'm the one. But I'm always amazed, like on people I'm trying to follow up with. I'm like, man, they're just not interested or something's wrong. Do you find this with your friends sometimes? Yeah. You'll have a friend that won't call you back and you're like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Right? And 99% of the time it's like, oh man, I'm sorry. I've just been real busy. We just had a baby or, something happened and they apologize. But in B2B, when you do get in touch with them, more often than not, we hear, hey, thanks for continuing to follow up. I'm sorry. I've just been really busy. So it does take time. But again, all I can tell you is that my observation of working with thousands and thousands of companies, US, Canada, England, Scotland, Ireland, software, hardware, security, design, office furniture, real estate, the most successful companies utilize the inside-outside sales model. So you got to figure out how to do that. And like I said, the problem is, unless you have, I'm going to sneeze in a second. You can edit that out, right?
Yeah. Can you censor it?
Yeah. No, just edit it out.
I'll edit it out, yeah.
I'll give you some leader now.
All right.
The challenge is, if you're a smaller company, the entry level is probably $200,000-$400,000 a year. And again, sorry, it's going to take a year for it to really ramp up. And you really want to be looking at like permanent. You just got to look at it. And then the other option is to outsource. Don't recommend appointment setting. Appointment setting is a very weird thing. And it really hit me why, because we had a client in the other day who was one of the owners of this company. And he was talking about, like, even as, when he, it's a family business, and even when he was given appointments, people set appointments for him. He was like, I don't want that appointment. Like, it's a weird dynamic. More often than not, I've seen sales reps just look for any excuse to disqualify appointments. I don't know what it is, but it is a weird phenomenon. That there's this feud between salespeople. I guess salespeople don't like to be told what to do. But if you have an inside program where you're just sort of, hey, I'm here, just wanted to, where you're trying to keep top of mind. So when it does come time for them to buy your product or service, they call you. And appointment setters have like a goal. And so they're trying to like almost force the appointment. And then on the other side, I've seen legitimate appointments that have been set where you can listen to the recording and the person's like, yeah, we're definitely interested. And then the salesperson tells their sales manager, oh, I called that company, they're not interested. Well, then, of course, the appointment setting company calls back Nancy, the person they spoke to, who's like the VP of whatever, and, hey, Nancy, it's, Larry again. Hey, did anyone from our company reach out? Well, yeah, I thought we had an appointment. No one reached out to me. Where the sales rep said they called Nancy and Nancy said she wasn't interested. Why does that happen? I don't know. I don't know. But it's a weird thing. I don't know if it's just they don't like to be told what to do, or it's just like it turns into this really antagonistic thing. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's very difficult. So, but it's, and listen, if you do inside sales, and especially there shouldn't be a quota, like that's like a crazy thing, because they're good inside sales reps that will stretch it. And I've seen it the other way, where if you listen to the recording, they agreed to it, but they were just trying to get the sales rep off the phone. And somebody who's good at setting appointments can kind of strong arm people into something. And that's where you drive 2 hours to go to a meeting and the person's not there. So our recommendation is no quota on appointments, because it's just such a delicate thing. And I don't even want to say no quota on it. It's a really complicated thing. And I don't know why that is. But if you do inside sales, you will set appointments and just kind of let them happen naturally, but just don't be, I don't know. Anyway, you can do whatever you want and then just enjoy your life of like going back and forth between your sales team and the appointment setter. And if you outsource it, that's a whole, it's a weird thing. I've seen sales teams just try to kill lead gen companies, try to kill appointment setting companies. It's a weird dynamic. But anyway, but with an inside sales team, it will naturally happen. So you want to just sort of set it up just so that you're not wasting the salesperson's time. But again, and I don't know what it is, even the most bulletproof, you listen to the recording and clearly Nancy wanted the appointment, clearly Nancy's interested. You give it to the salesperson, they blow it off, they tell you. So now what you have to do as a sales manager is every time a sales rep says, I called them, they're not interested, you're a fool if you believe them. Because I've so many times where it was actually a good appointment and now you're in the fray. So anyway, that's a bit of a challenge, but it's a good problem to have, at least. But and you want to sort of, we think that the best approach is a combination between lead nurturing, the best of lead nurturing, the best of engagement marketing from Gail Goodman, and the best of like appointment setting practices. And what am I missing? There's lead nurturing, engagement marketing. Oh, account-based marketing. So we feel that the best strategy is a mixture of all of those things that we're trying to, you set appointments. That's one of the goals. but also you want to develop a rapport with the client through the voicemail, through the email, through the content that you're sending out there, so that when it comes time for them when it is the right time for them to speak to someone, that they're going to reach out to you. And then make sure that when they reach out, that you have a process in place. And I've talked about this, that when they call, that you don't rely solely on the salesperson to follow up, because it takes 10 attempts to get somebody back on the phone. And I think I just had the example. I just gave it. I've been doing a lot of recording. I gave the example of the person who reached out to our client and our client didn't respond.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So look, that's a perfect example. Look, 50% of leads, based on the 12 extensive studies that I've done, the research that I've looked into. A woman by the name of Chatterjee did her doctoral thesis at Wharton in the 80s, found the same thing. 50% of management-generated leads were not followed up with. Chilton did research in the 70s, 10,000 management-generated leads, found the same thing. Most of the time that someone reaches out to your company, it's dropped. Half the time, no one bothers to call them. And there's a million reasons for that. So my recommendation is you outsource that, or have a separate team that also calls into the prospect. And it's a very simple process. So the smart money isn't going to assume that the sales rep is going to make 10 attempts to get somebody back on the phone, which, by the way, it takes 10 attempts to get somebody that's interested back on the phone. And some sales reps are like, well, if they don't call back, they're not interested. That is completely and utterly false. Somebody's propensity to call you back has nothing to do with the size of the deal. In fact, I can make an argument that the bigger the deal, the more important that person is, the more stuff they have going on, the less likely it is that they're going to call you back. And in fact, we have so many clients who followed up on what seemed to be a dead lead over and over and over again, because they've missed out on big deals. And on the 12th call, 12 months later, they finally get someone on the phone and they finally say, yes, come out, we're interested. And then they close the deal and they call us up. And they don't call us up for the small ones. They call us up because it was a monster. And they'll just tell us like how difficult it was to get them on the phone. So the smart way to do it is to assume that for whatever reason, your sales rep is busy, they don't have time to make 10 attempts. They know it takes 10 attempts in the back of their mind to call this. So they're like, ugh, why should I call? Only 10% of the time we're going to get someone on the phone. So the smart money installs a process where a lead comes in, and this could be a web lead. They called you. This, by the way, is the research that we did. We called the company and said, I'm the facilities manager. I'm the CIO of a 100-person company, 200-person company. I checked out your website. I'm interested in what you sell. Please have a salesperson call me. The voice, speaking to a receptionist into voicemail. Half the time, no one ever called. No one. Out of 100, out of the 50 that called back, it went to a single line phone. They said, oh, I know he's expecting your call. You just missed him. Call back tomorrow at 3. Only 25 made the second phone call. When they made the second phone call, same warm reception. I know he's interested. You missed him again. Call back tomorrow. Only 12 made the next call, and only 6 made the call after that. And then after that, everyone gave up after 4 or 5 attempts. Which, if I tell you it takes an average of 10, which, by the way, an average of 10 means sometimes it takes 1 call and sometimes it takes 30. If I tell you it takes an average of 10, then the bare minimum should be 15 or 20, by the way. 15 or probably 20. And especially if any one lead could be $1 million, $500,000, $100,000. So what I recommend, give the lead to the salesperson. The smart money assumes they're not going to do anything, or they're not going to make 10 attempts, or try to bully them into doing that. Good luck. So what I recommend is you have someone else from your company, or I recommend outsourcing this because it'll never get done. Have someone else from your company say, hey, this is Larry in customer service from XYZ company. Your salesperson will be in touch with you shortly. Thanks for reaching out to us. In the meantime, for your convenience, I just sent you an email with a list of all the services that we provide. I'll follow up next week to make sure that you got that email. Now, that acts as a honeypot. So if the salesperson never called, let's say I called in, left a voicemail, and no one calls me back, and I get that email from the person in customer service, hey, Larry, no one from your company's reached out to me. Now it acts as a honeypot. So now I save face, save the deal, engage the sales rep. So a week later, you have this separate team, either outsourced or internally, call back exactly 7 days later and say, hey, and again, you're going to get voicemail 92% of the time. If I speak to the person, I say the same thing. Hey, it's Larry from customer service from XYZ company. Just wanted to make sure you got my email with the list of services. And by now you should have been talking to our sales rep. No, your sales rep never called me back. Boom. I've just rescued that deal. Hey, listen, I just sent you an email, by the way. If you don't get them on the phone, or if you do get them on the phone, you also send them an email with some content. Hey, I just sent you, let's say you sell blue widgets. I just sent you an interesting article, 5 mistakes people make when they buy blue widgets. And then what you do is you follow up 2 weeks later. Hey, it's Larry from customer service again. How is it going? Were you able to connect with our sales rep? And then 2 weeks later, do the same thing. Looks a lot better than if I call your company and I say, have a salesperson call me, and nobody calls, which I'm telling you, there is a 50% chance that no one calls. And it's not that I don't believe that sales reps never call, but I think in general, what it's saying is that 50%, 100% of the time, 50% of your sales reps call. It's a problem. And I know it's a problem as a buyer. My admin folks, when they're buying B2B stuff for my real estate company or the lead gen company or the software company, constantly complaining to me that people won't get back to them. I'm like, where's that bid? We're looking for the quotes. Where are the quotes? Where are the people to talk to? They're like, Larry, we can't get them to call us back. It's amazing. Fix it. So, and that's a great job for an inside sales team, is that put this cadence together so that it's automatic. So first day, 7 days later, 14 days later, 28 days later. This should concern you. This should really, if you're in B2B, if you're listening to this podcast, this should concern you, because in B2B, any one phone call could be your biggest deal of your career. The other cool thing that happens from inside sales, I'll tell you a story. My brother Bill works with me, and he was working on one of our largest potential clients. He has a ton of data on this company, multiple contacts. He's trying to get an appointment, trying to do a presentation, multiple contacts. And in fact, one of the premier consultants in that industry recommends our company. Bill reached out to him and he said, yeah, I know this company really well. They're a client. We recommend your services. Let me reach out for you. So even the consultant, Jeff, reached out to the company, to some of the key people, like, you should be talking to Bill. Nothing. So one of our inside sales team didn't even talk to because we're like belts and suspenders. So Bill's working on 6 contacts at this company. We might have 5 or 6 other contacts at the company that we're simultaneously making the calls in, and we do the voicemail drop in Bill's voice. So we have a recording of Bill's voice. So when they're making the calls from the Philippines and they get a voicemail. Just push a button. Hey, it's Bill Dillon from Wendover, blah, 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 blah. So Bill gets an email from a person at this big company that Bill's never reached out to himself, but our inside sales team has. He's like, hey, Bill, I was referred to you by this other person who was on the inside sales team's call list. We need to get together for an appointment. So that was the tipping point. But all the effort that my brother had made, leaving the voicemail, following up, talking to this one, trying to get networked in through the consultant, none of that worked. Yet the inside salesperson who left a voicemail and an email was the thing that triggered the presentation for this company. So it definitely works. It definitely works. And you can't be like, well, let's try it for a month or 6 months. And I'm not talking about if you use us. Obviously, we have a service. But if you use another service, or if you hire someone and set up a team and take that plunge and commit to, it's probably going to cost you $200,000-$300,000 a year for a couple of inside sales reps and a manager. Don't do it if you don't have a full-time professional inside sales manager. Don't bother. Just outsource, because they have to be monitored like literally every hour. And I wanted to talk about this. Like, what you need to do is, and think of, we were talking to some of the reps who, have worked at other companies, and they're like, the minute the manager's out the door, it's chaos. And everybody's off the phone the minute. And that's a full-time inside sales manager. The minute. So imagine if you're not a professional inside sales manager, you have no experience in that, you hire an inside salesperson. What do you think goes on? What do you think goes on? Like, we've had new reps that we've hired, and even other reps, and we're like, we monitor their productivity, and we're like, it's noon, you've made 3 phone calls. Well, your job is to just call people and leave a voicemail. And get off the phone. Our software is wicked fast, so you click one button, it sends the email, schedules the follow-up. So you literally don't even have to do a lot of this. You just click a button, it does everything, moves on to the next record. Well, I was organizing my email. No, there is no organizing. It's no. But like, you literally are like, everyone else made 50 dials. Like, what? And it's this long, protracted like discussion, and then you're like, well, look, I'm just going to sit behind you, and we're going to watch. And then guess what happens when you sit behind them and they just click, boom, 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 boom. Then they make the 50 dials in the second half of the day. And some people, the second we're not monitoring them every hour, every 4 hours, it drops down to like, wait, what? You did it again. You made 3 phone calls in 4 hours. How is that possible? And now you get into an insane conversation. Like, there's no excuse. You have a list of thousands of companies to call. What do you mean you were organized? Well, I was, and they'll come up with any reason not to. And then if it persists, you got to fire them right away, because it's not for them. It's just not for them. It's, yeah. And if you hired an inside salesperson and they're not doing minimum, and I mean minimum 100 dials per day, it's not good. So, because you got to make a minimum of 100 dials a day, because you'll talk to 8 people and you'll find 1 or 2 people that are interested. So imagine your company every single day, you're talking to 1 or 2 people that are interested. Now, they might not be buying for a year, but that's okay, or 6 months or 9 months. That's fine. I'm going to stick with them. Instead of every 3 months, I want to put them on a cadence for every 6 weeks. Hey, I'm just touching base. Right? Last we talked, you were taking your dog to the vet. How's the dog doing? Oh, great. Da, 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 da. Now I'm building a rapport. I got 6 months, 12 months to build a rapport.
Yeah.
They're not even going to go to the internet. My goal is, you're going to be buying in 12 months. I'm going to make sure you do not Google blue widgets or whatever it is I sell. You're not even going to think about it. I'm going to destroy my competition because I got 6 months to snuggle up to you, push out content, answer any questions that you have. We had a phenomenal inside sales team for when I was in the moving business back in the 80s. And every month, my sales reps would walk into an appointment, and this is what would happen. They'd be like, Larry, I don't know you, but the job is yours, and it's got nothing to do with you. Frank has been following up with me religiously, for the last 6 months. He's so persistent and so professional. We're going to go ahead with your company. That never happens from SEO. Never. Never. But it would happen every single month because my inside sales team was like, they're like, hey, Frank, not interested right now. Can you follow up with me next month? Hey, no problem. I'm going to send you an email. And then next month, Frank would follow up exactly 30 days later. Oh, Frank, thanks for calling. Not right now. We're busy. We're dealing with the contractor and the building owner. And it's a mess. Would you mind? No worries at all. Let me send you out another month later. Oh, Frank. And by this time, they know your voice. Frank, thanks for following up. Listen, I'm not blowing you off. I'm just super busy. No worries at all. How's this going? Do you need help with this or that? And that's all we did. What did it take? It took, 4 or 5 30-second conversations or 30-second voicemails to destroy the competition to the point that they're not even going to talk to anyone else. That the second my sales rep, who they don't even know the sales rep, walks in and says, you have the job and you have nothing to do with it. Every single month without fail, my sales rep, we didn't get like a million, but how many deals did we close that they didn't say that, where the image of our company versus reaching out to companies and no one calling you back? I'll destroy you with it. No, seriously, with an inside sales team like that. And that's the beauty of inside sales is they'll tell you, we're going to make 10,000 calls today. And we're going to have hundreds of companies be like, I can't believe your timing. Yes, this is going on. That's going on. We're growing. We're expanding. We're doing this all day long. Just trying to help, Jeff. Look, this isn't just some concept that I came up with. I am not the author of this. This is not my trade secret. I'm a one-trick pony, man. I observe the most successful. I don't listen to the people that are like weaklings and like barely profitable with crappy growth rates. No, 90%. No, I'm looking to the elite. What are the elite companies doing? And they literally, like, I have a buddy of mine that took his company from like 0 to 110 million in 10 years. Very competitive industry.
Wow.
No debt, no financing, no investors. Him and his partner did it. And I'm like, what's the secret to your success? He says, I got 40 sales reps now. And every day between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, they're in buildings and they're knocking on doors. I'm like, what do you mean, cold calling? He goes, no, knocking on doors. He's in the staffing business. He's like, you need staffing? I'm like, that's amazing. What about SEO? What about content? He goes, Larry, we're a large company. We have the best of all that. If we relied on that, we'd be a very successful $5 million company right now. 110 is bigger than 5 million, Jeff.
Yeah.
See the difference? I'm not making this up, guys. I'm like, is your competition doing this? He goes, no. Even if he wrote a book like Gail Goodman, if he wrote a book and told the competitors how he's killing them at higher profit margins, they won't change. That's the beauty of this. It's hard.
Yeah.
It takes a while. But once you do it, there's nothing your competition can do to catch up because it takes a year to get those 4 touches. You'll get stuff along the way. And for most companies, listen, a couple of deals will probably pay for the outsourcing or the inside sales team. But yeah, it's just so consistent, but it just makes sense. Look, nothing's more powerful than actually talking to someone and having them say, I'm interested. Not right now, follow up in 3 months or follow up in 4 months or follow up in a year. And all you got to do is they'll tell you what to do. And the beauty is, and the further out it should be, the more elated you should be. You're like, oh, great. That gives me 6 months to develop a rapport with this person so that when it finally comes time, I am the first person that they talk to because I've developed a rapport in 6 months. And then maybe they go to the internet and, call in, a couple other companies, but they won't have the rapport. I've been pushing content. Is there anything else I can do for you, Jeff? Is there anything else? How about this? Here's a great article on 5 mistakes people make when they hire an IT services company. Here's an article in Forbes that talks about cybersecurity. I thought you might find this interesting. Larry, thank you so much. That's so helpful. Really appreciate it. I don't know. It's easy. You should be psyched when someone says, we're going to be doing something in 6 months or 3 months or 4 months.
Right.
Great. That gives me time to establish myself as a consultant. Consultants get paid more than sales reps. If you wait, this blows my mind that people like lemmings, listen to this idiocy of, 80% of the decision is made before they speak to a salesperson. What? Like a lemming, you're just going to jump off. Well, oh my gosh, me and 50 of my competitors, from Google's, from search engine results for white papers on, how to buy Boo widgets or security or whatever it is, you're out of your mind. What I think you should be thinking is, well, if thank God, if you're going to do this, you should be thanking your lucky stars that this is what people are pushing. Like that's your entire strategy is make sure that you publish so that when they look that hopefully that they're going to find your white paper. And no, the decision should be, well, I'm going to talk to these people before they go to the internet. Your goal should be they don't go to the internet. That's your goal. Your goal should be, I'm going to give them all the content they need so they never, before they even think about going, isn't it a smarter strategy? Is it just me, Jeff? Have I lost my mind? Isn't it a smarter strategy in a perfect world? If you could find someone, and let's say 3 months from now, without you, they would go to the internet and start researching, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it a smarter strategy if I could call you a bunch of companies and they're like, can't believe you call, we're thinking about it. We'll probably be 6 months to a year from now. Well, that means, okay, well, 3 months from now, she's going to start to do the research or he's going to start to do the research. I'm going to give them all the research they need.
Yeah. That
should be your strategy. You should listen to the great research that they've done. 80% of the decision is made before they speak to a salesperson. Great. Let the lemmings take that approach. Let the lemmings sit there with their hands behind their back and all of this content, on their virtual table. And hopefully you look at mine, which don't be delusional and think you're the only person that they're going to reach out to. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make more dials and make sure I get in touch with more people because they will tell you we are thinking about it probably 6 months or a year from now. Great. hey, let me send you some content. What else is important to you? Because now I can interact with that customer and say, what's more important to you? I have an article on 5 mistakes people make before they buy blue widgets, or, this article, talk to them, provide them the content. If I can get them to never go to the internet to do the research because I'm providing all the research they need, especially by third parties, I win. I beat you at a higher price. Meanwhile, you're sitting there with all your beautiful content on your website, on various websites. You've been published all over the place with your hands behind your back, hoping that somebody, you're publishing and praying, which, by the way, everyone else is doing it because everyone else has been fed this malarkey. And so they're doing exactly the same thing. Well, step up, go further up the food chain, go further up the line, the sales process. Reach them before they think about going to the internet to do the research. It's just so foolish. Jeff, tell me where I'm wrong. Am I out of my mind?
No.
That's foolish. That's a foolish, weak strategy. Obviously, you want to do that. That's one thing that you would do. But am I going to rely on that for high margin, high closing ratios? No. I'm sorry. I don't think that you can argue that waiting for them and praying that they go because you've published all over the place versus my goal is not to catch them when they're looking. My goal is to reach them before they look and develop a relationship with them. And it works. Again, my competitors, when I was in the moving business, got the crap beat out of them on price because they would wait till somebody went to, in those days, the yellow pages, just like the internet, and they would call 3 companies at the same time at the last minute. They're moving in 6 weeks or 6 weeks or so. They have a bidders meeting. You come out with like literally they would have these bidders meetings. I'm like, I don't want to go to a bidder. You want to make sure you have a big ad so you get in those bidders meeting. No. I'm going to find them before they think about calling a mover, furniture company, or cybersecurity or whatever it is, so that they never go to the internet. That should be your goal. Am I insane?
No.
It's just, and that's the power of inside sales. Inside sales allows you to reach companies before they're ready to buy, before they're ready to do research. Now, of course, you'll reach some people that are doing research, but you're still communicating with them and you'll get some feedback and you'll be able to talk to them. You can tell this is a very sensitive subject for me. 80% of the decision is made before they talk to a salesperson. Oh, well, then I guess I have to publish like crazy. I better get a lot of stuff out there on a million different websites. Yes, you should do that. Is that a winning strategy? No, I think I just proved it mathematically, like logically, mathematically. There's no wiggle room. A stronger strategy is call everyone you want to do business with all the time. Robin Robbins says, establish your target market and continue to market to them all the time until they die or go out of business. That's it. You never give up. Ever. Ever. Why would you? So, and the beauty is it's really difficult to start an inside sales team. Really difficult. Unless you're like my buddy who's got like a $4.5 million, goes to the chairman and is like, I need $4.5 million for something you've never done before. And the real results aren't going to ramp up for like a year or two.
Oh my goodness.
But they came after him and he's like, I'm not going to take the job unless I'm in charge of sales and marketing. But he's had success. They've had other people in that failed. Top line revenue declining. Could you have done it without an inside sales team? $4.5 million a year? No. I don't know. I have so many examples. versus waiting until they reach out to you. 80% of the decision is made before they reach a salesperson. I don't know why you don't, I immediately thought, I need to reach them before they do research.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna push my content out to them. What can I do for you? Jeff, what are you interested in? I got some great articles. Is there some research I can do for you? What are you concerned about with this? Well, follow up with me next month. Okay. Going to keep following up. I'm going to get 2, 3, 4 touches, a couple of conversations before you even think about going to the internet. But my goal is you never go to the internet. We've had customers where our goal when we were in the commercial moving business was we did furniture installation, office furniture installation, and commercial moving. We were in DC, Baltimore, Philadelphia. I was a young punk. I was a kid. I was like 28, but I had 4 inside sales reps in Baltimore and DC, and then 4 inside reps in Philly, and just crushed it. And our goal was that we closed the deal before they even got any other bids. And what we would do is that we would call up and we would say, talk about, are you moving your office, blah, 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 blah. And they'd be like, yeah, but we're not moving for 9 months. Well, we'd like to come out and give you a quote. Well, call me back. And then we would say, because on every single move, Jeff, there's always 10 problems. Either the elevator's too small or it's a long carrier. There's always 10 problems. And if we wait too long, then we can't solve some of these problems. So we would say, well, have you figured out the 10 problems? And they were like, what do you mean? Well, you just said you're moving to downtown Baltimore. She's like, yeah. Well, the fire marshal there is a real pain. We had a job. It was a law firm, 100 people. Friday, we're offloading from the one location. They hadn't gotten their occupancy permit, because that always happens, because there's always 10 problems. And they never get the occupancy permit till like Friday morning, right? It's always like, we're supposed to move in Friday afternoon, and Friday, we load up from one location. And so this one particular job, fire marshal pokes his head into the plenum, which is the area above the drop ceiling. And they had used PVC cable, which when it burns, it emits a gas that's very toxic. And then if you have return plenum ventilation, that means it circulates the air through the plenum. And then that gas can poison the firemen when they come in. So he said, nobody's moving in here until you rip out, which was the telephone line, the telephone and network line. All that cable needs to be ripped out. It's got to be replaced with Teflon cable or whatever it was, plenum cable. So they couldn't move in. We had to move everything into storage. They couldn't move in until a couple of days later. They lost productivity. The move coordinator got fired. And they would be like, how soon can you come out? And then we would go out and we would, we'd always find stuff. We'd look around and we'd be like, ooh, your boss, like this one particular job, the CEO had this beautiful, massive desk. It was this metal desk. And the new building they moved into was an old building in Baltimore, and the elevator was really small. And the stairways were really small too, so we couldn't and they were on the 6th floor, so we couldn't hand carry it up. And we're like, hey, we found a problem. Your boss, I know he loves that desk. And it had this big, 3 foot by 7 foot, 2-inch thick slate top. Like, it's not going up the elevator. Elevator's too small in that old building. And it's not going up the stairs. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I'm like, I got to research it. So we researched it. We had luckily it had big old windows. So we had to disassemble the windows. We had to hire a crane, like this huge crane, take it up through the crane and move it through the window. But we were able to plan it out. So when Friday came, we were able to figure out, when we were going to do it. We did it on a Saturday, so it wasn't so busy. We moved everything else in, saved the desk for Saturday. We're able to get all the permits to be able to cut off the traffic and get the crane in. But if that had happened Friday night, most movers wouldn't have figured it out till then. Then it would have been like the CEO or the partner wouldn't have had his desk for probably a week. It took us like a week just to get the permit to cut, to be able to like block off the block, to be able to get the crane in and hire the crane in, all that stuff. But we would always find problems. And so what would happen is, now this is months before they would even think about going to the internet or the yellow pages, right? And then my sales guys, whenever they were in that neighborhood, they would stop by and figure, well, what's going over here? Where's the new, and sometimes we'd look at the floor plan and we're supposed to assemble the furniture, and nobody field measured it. And we're like, wait, there's a column. We just went out to the job site and there's a column that's going to interfere with this run. So we're not going to be able to get, 15 cubicles in this space. We're going to lose 2 cubicles because of this. So then they would go back to the designer and switch it around and like, ooh, somebody didn't measure the columns out right. So we'd always find stuff. So we'd usually find like 2 or 3 things before they would go. And my guys would stop by, right? Would always stop by. And this would happen, not all the time, but enough. This would happen where they would say, listen, Jeff, I really appreciate all the effort that you're putting into this. You figured out the desk was too big. You figured this out. You figured that out. I just wanted to say thank you. They would literally say thank you. And then we would say the following. Listen, because we're consulting, we don't charge for this, but we should get a higher price because we deserve it, because we did all this extra work that no one else did. And then we would say, listen, because we knew we deserved a higher price, so we knew we were going to be the highest priced one. We said, listen, we know you're going to get some other bids for the job. And they would be like, no, don't worry. Right? You're going to get some other bids. All I need is an upfront agreement from you. If my price isn't the highest, please let me know, because I made a big mistake and I'll just graciously step away from the job. And then 9 times out of 10, they would just say, don't worry, the job is yours. Mm-hmm. And we just ensured, before they went to the yellow pages, we were the consultant. We did all this extra work. We deserved to get the job at the highest price. And we just told the customer flat out, like, we're going to be the highest price because we've done the work. Mm-hmm. And they were happy to pay. I mean, we didn't gouge them, but we were going to get more. I'm not going to come in like lowball, because I deserve it. Yeah. And that was our game plan. Was we wanted to consult. We wanted to do the extra work. We wanted to figure out what the problems were. And, oh, by the way, our moves were all smooth. If they allowed us to come out early and figure out those problems, no last minute problems. We'd field measure. We'd look at the elevators. We'd look at a long carry. We talked to the facilities, the building owners, because every building's got different building managers. And we would figure out those problems ahead of time, and we deserved to get paid more, and we did, and all of that before they would even think about going to, in this case, these days, the internet. Before they would think about going to the yellow pages, and they would literally, we guaranteed the job at a higher price, and we deserved it, and we delivered. It was a much smoother move because there's always problems. And I'm sure with your industry, if you have the time to consult with the client and talk to them about their needs and figure out, okay, on this particular client, what are the problems going to be? But you can't do that when they're like, they're just emailing you, send us a quote, So anyway, inside outside sales model. Guys like Gary Pica from True Methods, the legend, in terms of, and Robin Robbins, the leading consultants in terms of coaching MSPs on how to grow their business profitably. This is, a page out of their playbook. It just works. It's a very powerful tool, and you got to figure out, how do I incorporate that? And the beauty is that most of your competition won't do it. 90% of the people watching this, take all this down, they're not going to change anything, which is fine. But the 10% that do, you're going to crush it. So my advice to you is that if 80% of the decision is made before the salesperson, before the prospect talks to the salesperson, talk to the prospect before they do the research. And that's through the inside-outside sales model. Don't take that sitting down. Take some action on that. Use that information to your advantage. So, Jeff, that's all I got today.
Very informative.
I get very passionate about this stuff, and it's, I didn't invent any of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, I just listen to the most successful. I don't listen to people that are like, because I'll ask people numbers, profitability, and stuff like that. I'm like, don't really, I'll have a beer with you at a trade show, but I don't really, please don't give me any business advice. But yeah, I mean, it's clear. If you're in B2B, and you want to be a consultant, if you want to get paid as a consultant, if you want to increase your margins, if you want to control your growth, if you want to fire customers that you hate and replace them with better customers, this is gonna help you with that. So either do it inside yourself, $200,000-$300,000 a year, commit to, I would say 3 years, or outsource it. So it's up to you. That's all I got for today, Jeff.
Cool.
I'm exhausted. Well, listen, I'm Larry Dillon. I'm the CEO of the Wendover Corporation. This has been Scalable Insights. I hope you found this useful. Please, if you have any guests that you'd like us to talk to, any rock stars that you know that have crushed it, let us know. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out to us. We love talking about this. What jazzes us up is when, we coach somebody on something, or they learn something from this, and then I know some people from this are I'll get a call.
Yeah.
Like a year from now or 6 months from now. Well, I listened to that podcast, man. I took your advice, and man, what a difference. I know it's going to happen because I've done it. I've done so many trade shows. I've done so many speeches for the last 30 years at trade shows and at companies, consulted companies like AT&T and IBM. And it never fails. There's always somebody. Not everybody. It's always like one for like, dude, I'm like, it's pretty simple, right? Like, yeah. I'm not that smart. I'm really not.
I mean, I think a lot of people there's some people that need to hear this, and then they'll make the change, and that's what we're hoping for.
I think it's difficult. You got a lot going on. This isn't the only aspect of your business you got to deal with, but it's kind of an important one.
I mean, it takes someone to be smart to think of some of the most simplest of things.
But the thing is, we've had all these guests in, like David Perry and successful sales reps, and it's all the same.
Yeah.
It's all the same. I get paid to, like Pete was saying, I get paid to research. Like, he does a lot of research before he calls a prospect. I've had super successful people say I get paid to cold call. This is a guy, very successful guy, sells insurance, super successful. He goes, I get paid to cold call. Yeah. I got to meet new people every day, every day. I got to do something that's going to allow me to meet new people.
It's funny. It feels, every podcast we had, like, it feels like all of them are scripted because they all say the same thing, but none of it is. It's just, they all have the same mindset.
It's all the same mindset. The rock stars, the ones that struggle, they have all the same mindset.
Yeah.
I was reading that 80% of the decision is made before they reach out to a salesperson. So I'm just going to publish a lot and sit here and wait for the phone to ring. That's not a strategy. Something you should do. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but don't expect that to get you deals like I talked about. Like, ooh, your content is so good, I'm just going to use you at a higher price than no one else. That's never going to happen. Stop it. Which, by the way, all of your competitors are doing the same thing. So anyway, that's it for today, Jeff.
Awesome.
Thanks again.